Hello guys, welcome to one more video and thank you so much for visiting my channel. My name is Natasha and I'm fluent in 9 languages, so here on my channel I'm sharing different language stories with you. And today I'm going to do something that a real true polyglot should never do, but I have to do it anyway. I'm going to criticize one language. And believe it or not, I'm not going to offend any nation, any country, or any race because this language has no country and no nation. You heard it well. Did you know that there is a language that was man-made or man-constructed? If you're a language enthusiast, you definitely heard about Esperanto. But I know that many people who are not too much into languages have never heard of such a language, and some of them are really surprised that it is possible to create a language. It is. A language called Esperanto was created in the end of 19th century in Poland. It was created by a Polish ophthalmologist whose last name was Zamenhof. He was coming from a town where different nations were living together, such as Russians, Germans, Polish people and Jewish people, and each one of them used to speak their own language with each other, and they would see other language groups as enemies, which is unfortunately something that happens a lot in almost every city where different languages are spoken. So our Esperanto father was thinking that it is really sad that people see others as enemy just because they speak different language. So genius idea came to his mind. He decided to create a new language that is not going to be native to any of those groups or any nation. Instead, it is going to be constructed using different words and different sources from different European languages. So he's going to make a new language. He's going to try to teach as many people as he can. And someday, in many years, that language is going to become international language that is going to be used as source of communication between different nations. And it is, according to his dreams or his plans, it should connect people and decrease their hate towards each other. The idea itself is amazing. It sounds great. How nice would it be if we all were able to communicate with each other in certain language? And how nice would it be if each one of us had to learn that language instead of, like with English, certain people being able to speak it as native language and the rest of us have to suffer in order to learn it? Well, when it comes to Esperanto, the idea didn't work out that well in real life. As of 2023, there are only around 100,000 people in the world speaking Esperanto. Only 100,000, which compared to many other even smaller languages is very small number of people. However, it is the most popular and the most used man-constructed language. I personally have quite a few problems with Esperanto, and I want to share five reasons with you guys why I believe that Esperanto is definitely not useful language to learn, and what are some disadvantages that Esperanto has. My first problem with Esperanto is the fact that it is mostly created using different Indo-European languages. Most of the vocabulary is coming from Romanic languages. It is also inspired a little bit by Germanic languages, and certain pronunciation rules are same as in Eastern European or Slavic languages. But the problem is, if you want to create international language, you have to understand that international doesn't mean only European. This is a problem that I have noticed that many European people have. When they say international, they mean Europe. Well, it is a big problem because language such as Esperanto, if you want people from all around the world to learn it, is going to be very easy to learn for someone who speaks a European language as their native or a few European languages. But for someone who is coming from China or Japan or Zimbabwe, it is going to be a little bit complicated because all words and the language system is very different from what they are used to. So the idea of making international language might be good, but you should not forget that international does not mean Europe. Second problem I have with Esperanto is the fact that its creator which was definitely a smart man, could have guessed that there will always be an international language that most of people learn in order to communicate with people from different countries. But in almost everything, including language, international means law of the strongest. In the case of languages, law of the strongest means that the country that has the strongest economy, military, and everything else will always impose their own language to everyone else, and everyone will learn to speak it in order to be able to survive and communicate. In the past, international language was French because France was very strong. Nowadays, it's English, and in the future, it might be something else. But it will always, in my opinion, be a language that is native to a certain country. It will never be language that was man-made. Even though I have to say, I don't know how the world is going to look like once robots take over. That's a situation where man-constructed language or robot-constructed language might have certain success. My third problem, and I think that this is a pretty big problem with Esperanto, is the fact that most of the people, when they want to learn a new language, they want to learn certain language that has positive associations for them, meaning they're interested in the culture of a country where it's spoken. They are interested in food, people, everything else. In my case, I love to learn languages that I fell in love with because of the country where they're spoken. So when I started learning Spanish, I loved how it sounds, but I was also very interested in Latin America region. When I started learning Italian, it is because I just love Italy, same as everyone else, I guess. But in the case of Esperanto, it has no culture, and I like to say that it has no soul. There is no nation that speaks it, it's not official in any country. Through Esperanto, you cannot get to know any country, you cannot get to know their culture, their food, because there is no such a thing. And another thing I have a problem with is that Esperanto has no different accents. Actually, it can have different accents because people from all around the world can learn it and speak it in their own way. But when I'm listening to Spanish, I love to hear accents from people from different Spanish-speaking countries. In a case of Esperanto, there is no such a thing. So for me, it is really not an interesting language to learn. My problem number 4 is the fact that Esperanto, as the idea of international language, is something like world peace. Sounds good, not gonna happen. Father of Esperanto was also dreaming about world peace and one language that everyone is gonna learn, but we have to be realistic and realize that is never going to happen. Esperanto is inspired some people to create other man-made or man-constructed languages. Not all of them are really worth mentioning because most of them don't have enough speakers to even be considered language. But one that caught my attention is language called Inter-Slavic, which is very young. It was created in 2006. And of course, as the name says, it was created using different Slavic languages and mixing them up and creating a new one. And the idea behind that is that all Slavic nations should be friends and should love each other, and it's supposed to promote friendship between all Slavic nations, which, if you ask me, is the most ridiculous idea out there. Because if you check history of Slavic nations and countries in last few decades, if there is a war going on, it's most likely to be between two Slavic nations and not between a Slavic nation and someone else. So the whole idea of pan-Slavism is very funny to me. So I definitely refuse to learn any man-made language. I don't see the point. If you are someone who loves languages and loves learning different things for fun, then it's okay to give Esperanto, for example, a try. But if you are someone who is not having too much free time, I'd recommend you not to waste it on Esperanto. There's no point, there are not enough speakers for you to invest your time to learn it because you're not very likely to meet someone who speaks Esperanto out there when you are traveling. You are also not going to learn anything about any culture or any country through Esperanto. Of course, this is just my opinion, and I know that there are a lot of people out there learning Esperanto because in last 10 years it became kind of more popular than ever before thanks to language learning apps such as Duolingo. But if you wanna my advice, do not waste your time on this. It has no point, it doesn't bring you any benefits, and if you really want to learn a language, pick a normal language where you can communicate with its native speakers. Guys, let me know in the comments, what do you think about Esperanto? Have you heard about it ever before? Have you ever tried to learn it? I have to admit, I never tried to learn Esperanto. I read a lot about it. I have seen different texts and words in Esperanto, and to me it just looks too non-interesting enough for me to learn. So let me know in the comments, what do you think about this language? Thank you so much for watching, and see you next week.